Welcome back, everybody, to the Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is Act 75, Searching for the Sakabato. And this is the final chapter in this 3-in-1 book. Woo 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 woo! We did it, everybody. I feel like we spent a lot of time on this one. But we finally did it. We are at the end. And let's just, out of curiosity, let's see when this started. This started, oh my goodness. It started literally at the beginning of the Kyoto arc. Wow. Amazing. But we're done. I would say that we're officially on to Act 2 of the Kyoto arc. I don't know. I mean, I already said that, but we're pretty much here. Anyways, one of the things that I really appreciate about this chapter, or kind of like the several last chapters, but I really kind of honed in on it here, is that each chapter, it just ends with a cliffhanger, like just like come back next week. There's more, like the story's getting good, it's getting interesting, right? Like the cliffhanger here is Shishio's men honed in on Kenshin being there, like, oh, what's gonna happen next week? You know, and it's just been kind of doing that consistently for the last few chapters, and I'm all for it because Kyoto's really good. But let's get into the chapter summary review, and we'll get into the rest of the chapter and then say goodbye to this 3-in-1. It's the second day in Kyoto. Okina and Misao greet Kenshin, ready to take him to the streets despite Kenshin's reservations. Okina shares with Kenshin information about the first person he's looking for, Arai Shakku, the man who forged the Sakabato, who is confirmed to be dead. However, hope is not lost as his son learns his father's craft and the trio go in search for him. Shaku's son Seiku's ability for crafting knives proved to be of high quality, but the man denied Kenshin's request to forge him a new sword. After the three take their leave, Shishio's men confirm Kenshin's arrival in Kyoto. Oh, and Kaoru and Yahiko meet Tai's twin sister somewhere in this chapter. So the first thing that I want to talk about is Okina. We got to meet him in the last chapter, but I just really want to take a moment to highlight Okina's like fun-loving personality, especially because it was somewhat addressed here. Like the chapter took its time to kind of address his kind of goofy nature, so I think it's kind of worth talking about. But he kind of like fits the archetype of the old man, kind of like sage type character who maybe a little bit pervy, maybe a little bit like goofy, and I mean he definitely is goofy. The only thing I think that he's really missing is Kame-sennin's like Playboy magazines. But you know, he kind of fits that archetype, that like he was a force to be reckoned with in his heyday, and now he's just kind of a fun-loving guy who has fun with the people around him. And I think that unlike Kame-sennin, who is a hermit and just kind of wants to keep to himself, or literally lives on an island by himself with him and his turtle, Okina lives around a busy street such as Kyoto. Kyoto is just as big of a city as what maybe Tokyo was at this time. I know that Tokyo is huge now, but I mean, I have to imagine that it hadn't expanded to the size that it is currently in our modern day. At this point, it had just kind of recently become the capital. But anyways, Kyoto is a busy place. He lives amongst it. He loves people. He loves Kenshin, and he wants to show him Kyoto. He's very proud of his city. He wants to kind of like take Kenshin on a tour. And I think that is just, it's a nice little contrast from like the typical like wise old sage type who is a little bit goofy. And the way that Okina probably differs from other sage-like characters is that he probably doesn't get a lot of guests, despite living in such a busy city, that when he does get guests, he just wants to kind of host. And I get the feeling that they probably don't get a lot of visitors, and that's the reason why he's taken so by Kenshin and Misao too, because the two walk into the room ready to take him out, you know, and like show him the grand tour of Kyoto, you know. Like, it's funny and comedic, but I think it kind of like fills in the character a little bit more than just your kind of typical old man in anime, you know? And, you know, it's not that he's, like, non-wise to the situations. Like, it shows that, like, he could have been the leader, but he believed that the future is held to the new generation, and he kind of took a step back. And so he's also very selfless in that it's not about ego, it's about what's best for the group. And I think that for a ninja type character and in a group like the Oniwaban, that is very important that he and I think in any group really, but in the case of like the ninja or the shinobi, the Oniwaban, it's a character trait that is worth having in everybody, not just here, but in a group setting. All right, so let's talk about Arai Shakku. There's something that we find out about Arai Shakku on the group's way to go meet the sun, in that he kind of got shunned by the whole community. He just really kind of focused in trying to become the best craftsman at swords that or weapons that like deliberately kill, not just for like maybe self-defense and stuff, but like but that really kind of like perfect the craft of murder. Which is really kind of weird to talk about, but I guess he kind of took it overboard to the point that the community shunned him for it. When we can kind of see where his headspace was at just based on how different his son is from him, where his son says that he loves peace and that he didn't really understand his dad's philosophy. It's probably because he was so honed in on this very specific goal that he didn't take the time to elaborate with anybody else and kind of explain. And like what his son says, he says, the swords that I make will create a new age. And that's kind of vague enough that he doesn't really explain it, but because of like the way that the society or the community shunned him, you can tell that his son holds resentment towards him because he probably felt some of that rejection from the community. And so I think that it's very normal or it's a very reasonable response for the son to also reject his father for feeling that sense of rejection from the community, and for like kind of honing in on the idea that like that his weapons through death will create a new age, and not really explaining it. And of course, we're gonna find out exactly what he means. But I really liked how Okina, and kind of going back to like him being like the sage type character, is that this man, Shakku, created the Sakabato. And it doesn't make any sense because his swords were the ones that were kind of used for death. And, well, his swords were used for death. And Okina kind of hones it in where he says to Kenshin, a man's life is full of contradiction, right, Himura? Like, without him, like, having seen Kenshin or kind of just knowing about Kenshin through, I guess, the rumblings and stuff, Kenshin is the legendary Hitokiri Batosai, but yet he threw that all away and became a pacifist. And in a way, it kind of feels like Shakku might have done the same thing, but we don't really know why. And at this point, we still also don't really know why Kenshin did that. Again, this is possibly sowing seeds for Jinchu. I just love that there's like he's thinking that far ahead. Like, we're still in the middle of this grand arc, but the author is kind of planting those seeds. Like, what is going on here? And we're gonna find out why Shakku created the Sakabato in just a couple chapters, but it's still very interesting in its own way. And to finish off this chapter, let's go ahead and talk about Kaoru and Yahiko being present. This is all for a misdirect where Okina comes to Kenshin and says, hey, let's go to the Shirobeko. And we see that Yahiko and Kaoru are at the Shirobeko. And this was all kind of like, whoa, maybe they were gonna meet here. Oh man, they were so close to really meeting each other, and then they just don't because they go see the sun instead of Arai Shakku. Arai Shakku. Oh my goodness. And that was the whole purpose for them, is just to kind of put us on our toes, like, oh, maybe this is where Kenshin and Kaoru finally reunite. But of course, it wasn't going to be that easy. But that's basically it. And this has been Act 75 of Rurouni Kenshin and the end of this 3-in-1, everybody. Woo, we got a new one next week. If you like this video and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel, leave a thumbs up, and comment down below something that you enjoyed about this chapter. I think I just really like Okina. I think that he is a bit of a cool guy, like in this panel right here. Let me know what you guys think down below. Oh, and maybe share this video out to people who might enjoy Rurouni Kenshin. I don't know, that could be an idea. But I'll see you guys all in the comment section down below. Bye, ciao.